Hi guys, welcome to the channel. So it's been a rubbish week, I have to say, so I'm hoping this unboxing makes things a little bit better. We have just come out of lockdown, everyone's out and around and rushing around ready for their Christmas shopping or to get their Christmas shopping, and it seemed a good time not to go out and to stay at home. So I thought we'd do a bit of an unboxing. Now recently Novridge released the SSG96 and I went to buy it. I put it in the cart. I was about to check it out and I stopped. And I watched a couple of videos on people who got like the early releases, if you like. And I had a look at them and one thing came to me straight away. Novridge is saying that it's the best L96 replica on the market at the moment, and to be honest, I believe him. I think it probably is, looking at it straight out the box. Yeah, fair enough, I'd agree with that. The only issue with that is there's not much competition, if we're honest. I mean, let's face it, you've got Well, CYMA have got their version, but they're all pretty much built in the same factory, I think. So with that in mind, there isn't a great deal of competition, and I looked at the videos for the Novridge L96 and or SSG96 should I say, and it actually looks a decent out of box setup for sniping. Actually, the stock looks good quality. It's like a nylon polymer style stock, like a reinforced stock. It's got its own receiver with the left-hand conversion, which looks suspiciously like the upgrade part that you can get from Action Army. It's got a decent cylinder and an aluminium piston, and it looks all right, to be fair. The one, it's got the TDC, but I've got to be honest, the hop-up unit doesn't look anything too special, and it's got 601 Type ball barrel. You know, well, I've said it before, you know, 601 barrels, not all of them are equal. It just depends on whether it's a good one or not. You can't get too excited about that. You need to know the quality of it. I don't know. It's got maple leaf hop-up, which is always a good thing. Nice little touches like the clear mags, and what else was on there? Trigger box. So the trigger box looked, well, it's got an upgrade part in there. So it's not the sear is it the sear that is upgraded? I can't remember. But yeah, it's all stuff you can get, and it made me wonder, made me think, because when I did the SSG10, I had lots and lots of people say to me, yeah, I could do it better for myself for a lot less money. And it got me thinking about the L96. I'm pretty sure that Novridge's L96 is probably a Well model with a bit of TLC given to it. So that made me think, well, what could we do? Rather than going out and buying an SSG96, so I know what's going to happen. I'm going to bring it back and go, hey, this is great out of the box. You know, if you're not in the market, you don't want to tech anything like that, then yeah, great out of the box. Let's start upgrading it. And that's what happens. It happened with my SSG10, which is absolutely amazing now. But most of it isn't the SSG10. Most of it's maple leaf or Action Army. So I thought, let's build one and let's keep it within the price of the SSG96 and see if these claims are actually true, because everyone says when you see these guns, I could build it better myself for less money. So that's the challenge, and we've got our base gun to do just that. Okay, so I don't need to tell you what our base gun is because it's going to be in the title of the video. So you'd have to be pretty stupid to have missed that. But if you are that stupid, then the gun we're using is from Cyma, and it's their L96 variant. It's the CM.706 in OD green. And yeah, we're going to get into the box and have a look at this. Okay, so here is a cardboard box. So let's have a look what we got inside. There we go, and there is your package. So that's a target and some instructions on the back, pretty normal stuff. I'm pretty sure that's Polish, but there you go. But it would be because it's come from Taiwan Gun, which is a Polish site. I've had a few people say to me, what's the import duty like on stuff from Taiwan Gun? There isn't any at the moment in the UK because it's it's actually in Europe, so don't worry about that. And they're a good retailer. I've had loads of stuff off them. Let's get these retainers out. We have a magazine. And we have a speed loader. I love speed loaders. Can't get enough of these things. So yeah, I'm always happy to see these. We have an Allen key. We did have some BBs, but for some reason the bottom of the bag was missing and they all fell out. Before I actually opened the box, the BBs were actually in the packaging. And we have the gun itself. So let's get this out. Oh, and a jamming rod and cleaning rod. So let's get this on the table, set back a bit, and we'll have a proper look at it. So here it is, guys, the CM.706 from Cyma. Now this is basically identical to the Well version, which is the MB08. And if you have a look, that also has the folding stock. It's literally identical to this gun. There is nothing different about it. Now, the L96 in airsoft form has been around for donkey's years. It's literally as old as God's dog. And most of those were done by the likes of Well. And there are a couple of other small manufacturers, but if they weren't made in the same factory, I'll be absolutely amazed. And then Cyma have got their versions again. They're virtually identical. So I'm sure they're all made in the same place, and they've never had the greatest reputation for quality. They work, they'll do their thing, but they're not brilliant. I think they have improved though over the years. Some of the early ones were just nasty. This one I've taken out of the box, had a quick play with it, and it actually doesn't seem that bad from an operation point of view. Now, it's going to be on the budget side. This thing set me back £114, which is very cheap. The Well version is around the same if you can find it in stock anywhere, maybe even a little bit less. I've seen them as low as £104. So we're not talking about high grade materials. We're not talking about top quality guns. So let's have a look over this thing and see what features it actually has. So starting at the back, we have a rubberized stock, which is quite nice. We have our cheek rest, which is fully adjustable on here. Just pull it up. It's not smooth, but it works. And then back down. We have sling mounts, both sides. We even have a little monopod. Never met anyone who's ever used one in airsoft, but there you go. You've got it if you want. And there's a little button on the back that pops it up. Just adds weight, really. Moving along, we've got a button for our folding stock. So you press that in, folds around, and it clips into place there. There is actually a spring to allow you to clip it into place on the side. Not a huge fan of folding stocks on sniper rifles, if I'm honest. And this one has got some wobble in it, as you'll see there. And that's why I don't like them, because they never fit really well. And again, there's some wobble in the stock laterally. Not big fan of that. So it's got a nice big solid sling mount. We've got a strange Glock style trigger. So we have a safety in the trigger to help you pull it back, and then it locks when it's out. I'm not sure why that's there, because we've also got a safety up here. So two safeties, perhaps a little bit of an overkill, but there you go. Moving along, underneath we have our Magwell, which is situated at the front. There are versions of the L96 that come with the mag in the correct place here, and they're called the AWS versions. Personally, unless you're buying the Tokyo Maru version, I steer clear of them because they're junk. They don't work very well at all. I've got one in the room next door. It's got that many upgrades in it. It's got so much to try and make it work, but I've modified the mags, everything else, and you can't guarantee you're always going to get a BB. They misfeed, they jam up, they're not the best things in the world, if I'm honest. The TM ones are probably by far the best, but yeah, not great. So I actually prefer the L96 like this, because I know when you're actually playing the game, yeah, it doesn't look as authentic, but it does work, which is pretty important. Moving forwards, we've got our sling loops on the left and the right, and we have our little mounting points for bipod, and that does actually come out. If you want, you can press that button underneath and pull it out and just leave it empty if you want, or you can fit a bipod on there. Personally, I don't run bipods on sniper rifles because they're a faff. They can have their place, they can be useful on the right day, but those situations are fairly slim. It's not often you'll get to a position and think, God, I wish I had a bipod. Moving on, we've got a fluted barrel which actually tapers to the end, so it's not the same length all the way along. It does taper down to a point, and then we've got a screw-on cap to allow us to fit an adapter for a suppressor if we want. So as far as the bolt mechanism is concerned, like any sniper rifle, pull it up, pull it back, and away it goes. And that is actually, for the price of this gun, that's a really nice bolt pull. It's actually very, very smooth. Way smoother than I expected it to be, and quite light as well. We'll see what kind of spring it's got in there when we do an FPS tryout. So let's check out this trigger. So here it is. We've got our safety on there. Pull it forwards, and away it goes. Now you'll notice, if we do that again, you pull the trigger back. That's the braking point. But as you put it a bit more, you'll see it doesn't move. It hasn't got a clear, well, it's got a clear brake, but it just stops. Okay, it feels like it's like a real hair trigger. I don't dislike it, but it's a bit odd. I prefer to have a proper brake when you pull it back and you really feel it. So if we compare that trigger brake to something like the SSG10, so here's a trigger, let's try it out. So you get a clear snap, a clear brake. Let's try that again. Yeah, that's a really nice trigger. And compare it to the Silverback. Same again, really nice trigger brake. So that one sort of comes back, it gets to a dead and then pops, which isn't the best. Let's try that again. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, it's not quite the same. What I will say though, the bolt pull is actually very good. My SSG10, I've upgraded the guide rings, everything, and the actual bolt pull on this is actually very good. So yeah, that's interesting. So first things I don't like, trigger feels a bit funny because I don't like the dead stop, and I cannot stand this stock. This actual folding stock, it's very weak. There's not much there. Yeah, that we're going to do something about that though. We can sort that out. Other than that, everything else feels fine. We've got a Picatinny rail across the top, full rail, so we can get a scope on, and I think that's what we're going to do next. So you stick a scope on and it looks better already. So one thing I'll tell you about this, it's heavy. This is not the lightest of sniper rifles. Now it doesn't really matter that much. It's not unbearably heavy, but it's noticeable, certainly over something like a VSR 10 or well, certainly over a Silverback. Those things are seriously light. So at one time with a sniper rifle, what you had to do in airsoft is to buy one, knowing it was probably going to break on the first shot and be a load of rubbish, start upgrading it, or go out and buy a Tokyo Marui VSR 10 and start upgrading it anyway. And they are still essentially the benchmark. But if you want something a bit different, something, you know, to match the games that you've been playing, then you can't go far wrong with an L96. But the thing is, out the box, they're not fantastic. You've got to do a little bit of work to them. And this will be no different. Now, just a couple of things you need to clear up, because I keep hearing people say on some of the reviews for Novridge's SSG96, they're sort of saying, oh, it does this or it does that. Some of these features are standard. So let's get a magazine. I've seen somebody say, oh, what Norwich has done is brilliant with this because the magazine self-ejects when you press the button. It's nothing new. They all do that. Whether it's any stronger or not, does it matter? I don't know. And it's gone. So yeah, that's nothing new. The other thing I've heard is people say, well, it's got an indicator to tell you when you've got no BBs left. Like that. It's perfectly normal for an L96. So what about the bolt and the bolt pull? So here we go. One thing I'll say about the bolt is it looks like it's an interference fit and it's just pressed in place. That I don't like. That is waiting to fail. This one actually feels solid. It doesn't move around, it doesn't wobble around. I don't know, it may last a while, it may not, it's hard to say, but when these aren't pinned, it's usually a weak point and the kind of thing you'll be looking at changing. The actual pull and the movement is very smooth, it's very good. You'll find a knock when you get to there, which is the bolt catching the receiver. If you move it, it goes. One thing you will notice is once you get past to there, that is the point at which it starts to get a little bit tighter. Hear that knock? That is the nozzle hitting the back of the hop-up unit. So it means it's not entirely lined. A very, very common thing with airsoft sniper rifles, and something that is a real pet hate of mine. You give it a shove and it goes in. I don't like that because you end up taking little bits of metal with you into the hop-up unit. So the hop-up adjustment is done via an Allen key inside here. Not my favourite way of doing it. Much better to have a top dead centre screw on top of here, but it is fairly standard fare. That's what you tend to get. A few mould lines on the stock here, quite a rough cast. It's not particularly pretty. The stock is actually painted. This is actually paint on there, not colourised plastic, because if you look inside you can see it's a much shinier, greener plastic on the inside. So you are actually getting a little bit of a paint job on the OD green one, and I actually think it looks really nice. It does look good. I'd prefer it with a camo paint scheme, but I think it generally looks pretty cool. We have our safety up here, as I mentioned before, and yeah, the build quality of this for the price of it is actually very good. It doesn't creak, doesn't really wobble other than a little bit of stock movement where the join is, but we'll do something about that. I actually think it's actually, for the money, it's actually really good. It feels solid. The magazines are actually metal. So it's a metal base with a plastic top. One thing that does bother me a lot is if we take the cap off the end here, you'll notice your inner barrel and it moves around all over the place. That is a wobbly inner barrel. And that is the Grim Reaper to accuracy, it really is. But that is why the world invented barrel spacers. So that's it, that's where we are. So let's have a couple of shots out of this and see exactly what kind of FPS we're getting out of it as standard. One thing I will say, loading these mags is a pain. So you have to push this down, and you need one of the pistol loader adapters for your speed loader. It sort of clips over the top. I actually haven't got one, can you believe? And so you have to sort of put your finger over the top, sort of hold them in and bang all the BBs in. It's not the easiest or most elegant way of filling a magazine. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to fire this into the Chrono, which is over there. I haven't got it on camera because it's just the length of this gun, and trying to faff around getting it lined up, it's just a pain in the backside. So we're going to do it this way. So 0.2 gram BBs, 482. 482.5, 487, 487, 487.8, 481, 472, 486, 474. So the FPS is jumping around a little bit, but it's not too bad. Interestingly, because of this type of magazine, you don't lose BBs when you take it out with BBs still in the chamber. So everybody likes a compression test, so let's do it. Finger over the barrel. I could hear that come out. Yeah, nothing. So we're losing a ton of compression. Hear that barrel wobbling around in there, that's not good. No, I can hear it leaking, so you're going to get no compression on there. So that's another job. So we want to sort out the compression, and we've got to get that FPS a little bit more consistent. The question is, what does it shoot like? Well, it's not a very nice day outside and we've only got 20 meters to play with, but we can have a go and see exactly what it's like. So I didn't film the shooting bit because it's chucking it down around. I didn't want to wreck the camera, and it doesn't tell you that much, because if you look, you've got a little grouping here, which, you know, you'd say, oh, okay, fair enough, a few up here and there was one flyer up here, but it doesn't tell you the full story. So when I'm sniping, I always use 0.45 BBs. I carry 0.4s just in case I need any, but I always use 0.45s. So I put 0.4s in this, that being the lightest weight I would use for sniping, particularly around 480 FPS, which is generally what it's putting out. And it's just lobbing them, it's not lifting them. With maximum hop, it's not lifting them at all. So straight away we know that you're going to get no range out of that. Now if you maybe use 0.36s or even 0.3s, I think maybe closer to what you would need to actually get a straight trajectory with your BBs. But then you're not going to get the maximum ranges with lighter BBs. They're going to get blown off course, all kinds of things. In reality, the hop rubber it's not really any good. Also, adjusting the hop is a massive pain in the backside because you have to get a tiny Allen key, try and get it located inside there to try and turn it. You don't want to be doing that. It needs a TDC on it, which is, goes back to what Novridge has done with his. So he's got a TDC, although it's an Allen key type one, which I don't like because if you've got a scope on, they're always a bit tight. But anyway, he's done that. And yeah, I think the trigger also was a problem because sometimes the sear doesn't release and you have to have another bite at it to get it to go. So you'll go to fire, nothing happens, you release it, pull it again, it'll go. So again, there's another weak point there, a weak point with the movement in the stock. So it's not sounding too great, is it really? But in reality, this is what I expected. This hasn't done anything that I didn't expect it to do out of the box. I knew the hop was going to be rubbish. I knew the stock was going to be wobbly. And I knew the trigger was going to be a bit gummy. So I'm not really disappointed because this is what I would expect from a £114 airsoft sniper rifle. I've seen them before. This is nothing new. And I'm actually impressed at how good the bolt pull is on it. It is actually a really nice bolt pull. There's really nothing at all wrong with that other than a little bit of catcher when it goes back into the hop unit. So all things considered, it's not that disappointing. And I think if you radiused these 2 points here, it'd be even smoother. So it's just that trigger, it's horrible. So that's our starting point. £114. And it's a Cyma L96 copy. So let's see, what would you do if you put it up against a Novridge? Well, at the moment, Novridge is absolutely right. His is probably the best on the market. But we want to get somewhere close, if not surpass that, to be honest. Well, let's say close. We don't want to get close. We want to surpass it. And that's perfectly, we're perfectly capable of doing that. That's not some kind of mysterious task to try and surpass the SSG96. One thing we won't be able to, well, we could do it. We could put the cocking indicator in the back of the bolt. That would be perfectly achievable. All you've got to do is machine out the center of the guide rod and put something in there to show that the piston's in the rearward position. I don't see as that would be a problem to do. Is it worth doing? Not really. I don't see as a great need to do that, to be honest. I don't think it's that big a deal. There's parts of the receiver I noticed on Novridge. On his receiver, he's got inserts in there so that the threads are more positive. A really good idea, that is, because it means that when you're taking it apart, putting it back together, you're not chewing up those nasty, weak aluminium threads. However, there are things called helicoils that you can use, which do the same thing, which is what I'll probably do to this to give it a greater level of longevity in the actual aluminium parts. So, I think we need to decide what we're going to do to this, and we need to keep it within a budget, and that budget is going to be the SSG96, because that's what everyone believes you can do, is make something better cheaper. So we're going to have a go. So the SSG is €349, which equates to £314.81, which actually very conveniently, if you deduct the price of this thing, gives us £200 and 49 pence. Oh no, 81 pence, sorry. So we've got £200 and 81 pence to make this thing great. And we need to start looking at a shopping list of things that we want to replace. So number one is going to be the barrel. So I used in my SSG10 the Action Army type ball barrel, and I'm really happy with the results. So it's actually very good. So I'm going to do the same to this. So first thing we're going to work out is what to do to the cylinder. So we're going to have an Action Army spring guide with the bearing on. We're going to have the Action Army L96 cylinder. We're going to get the Action Army piston for the L96 as well. We'll probably get the Airsoft Pro Sniper L96 steel trigger sear. We'll also get the Action Army hop-up unit, CNC chamber hop-up unit. And we're also going to get from Action Army again the inner barrel spacer set. So very often I make these myself, but I'm going to do this as, you know, somebody who can't get hold of a milling machine or a lathe, because I can make these things myself, but I'm going to do it as if I haven't got access to these things, so you guys can also get hold of them. Okay, so I've put the price of those parts together, and it's actually come to £211.44, £11 over our allowed spending, or just under. So we've already gone over budget, and that does not include a TDC for the barrel. So that is a bit, you know, that's a bit of a frustration really, because I'd like to include the TDC, but never mind, that's the way it is. We're going to stick with the trigger that we've got for now. I've not actually seen a blade trigger for these as an aftermarket part, so I haven't factored that in. But I have to say, given the amount of parts, the cylinder, okay, the cylinder again is probably a higher grade than an average one. From the Action Army one, that is, it's Teflon coated, so it is quite a nice piece of kit. But I have to say that Norwich is keeping the margins tight on this. It's not a foregone conclusion that his gun is overpriced in this format. And I haven't factored in the fact that obviously you've got hop-up rubbers as well. Now I haven't put a price to the hop-up rubber because I've got dozens of things in there, but you know, if you're buying it from scratch, you have to consider that as well. So I have to say, I'm not sure it's going to be that easy to beat the Norwich gun for the same price. I think you've got to spend a little bit more. So when you factor in the SSG's slightly upgraded receiver as well, it doesn't seem that bad a deal, I've got to be honest. It doesn't seem so bad. So what we'll do, we'll get to this point, we'll see what it's like, see if it's worthy of sort of saying, yeah, this is spot on. I think the combination of parts such as the barrel, the hop unit, the cylinder, the piston, I think it's going to surpass the Norwich on the quality side, because Action Army make fantastic parts. There's no two, you know, people can argue, like, say what they like, but it's a fact. Action Army makes some really good parts, and I think they will ultimately be a nicer collection of parts than what you would get with the SSG as standard. But for the price, you can't argue it's not far off. It really isn't, and it's going to be difficult to beat it pound for pound. So guys, as if by magic, I actually have all the parts here to try it out, which is nice. So we'll put those to one side because I'm not going to do it in this video. It'll be coming up in another one. And I've also got a little bonus to try out with it, which was an entire trigger box. So this has gone way beyond the trying to stick to the budget of beating the SSG. That's gone out the window with this thing. But all the same, we're going to try it just to see what it's like in comparison to the standard and see if it's a worthy upgrade. But first of all, we've got to try and get it to like a base standard, if you like, which was to try and challenge the SSG10 for value for money. And I've got to be honest, I'm not overly confident that we're going to get all the way there as far as I'd like on the price that we've got. Yes, you can get cheaper parts than these. Action Army parts are more premium than some, and you can spend more as well. But all in all, yeah, this is turning into a bit of a tough challenge. So guys, that is the Cyma's take on the L96, and it's the CM706, and we'll see how we go with it. Let's see how we get on and see what we get out of it. This is going to be quite good fun. I'm actually looking forward to working on this and making it a bit better. I do want to get rid of this because it's just too easy to knock that and the stock come back on you. It's a little bit too wobbly. That's going to be a home fix. You're not going to buy anything for that. But I have had a look around it, and it does look like it's easy to dismantle. You can take all of this mechanism out, so it may be just threading a bolt in there and locking it up so it doesn't actually fold at all, because sniper rifles that fold, unless you stick it in a suitcase, it really needs it. All in all, I think we're going to make this thing good, and it's going to be a fun little project. So stay tuned. If you want one out of the box and you don't want to do any teching, then go and buy the Norwich. If you want to buy one a bit cheaper and put your own stamp on it and make it a bit different, then look into one of these. But don't think you're doing it on the cheap and you're going to save a lot of money, because I don't think you can, in all honesty. I think it's going to be a bit more, if you want to buy one of these and just stick a hot rubber in it and play with it until it breaks and then upgrade it, of course you can do that a hell of a lot cheaper. So that would be another option, is just to put a decent hot rubber in here and go and use it as is. But then obviously you are going to be outmatched with the people with the good sniper rifles that, you know, there's always somebody out there with an SRS. Every game I play, there's somebody with an SRS or an upgraded VSR. So just bear in mind, when you're playing against these guys, it's going to be a little trickier. I saw some guys playing a couple of months ago. They were using the Well MBO, I think it might have been the 44, something like that. It wasn't the 44D, I think it might have been the other one. And he'd got himself gillied up with this 44D, and it was, I felt for him, to be honest, because he was just wasting his time. He was getting slaughtered by upgraded AGs that would fire further and more accurately, and in a sniping role it was just not happening for him. So yeah, I felt bad for him. He sort of stuck with me for a bit as we worked around some enemies, and you know, I was using my SSG, and it just outranged the Well by miles. I mean, not even a little bit, I mean absolute miles. So it really does make a difference. So if those people are playing, what's the point in sniping if you can't get the range on them? You've pretty much got to get them at close range, and then you've got to watch your minimum engagement distance. So if you're going to go into sniping, you need to consider what you want to do and how you're going to do it, because it can be quite frustrating. But on the other hand, it is possible, you can do it. So let's see how we get on with this. It's going to be fun. So stay tuned, keep a lookout for the next video. And I've got the PP2K has arrived, and it is an absolute beast. I can't wait to show that to you. But it's also my Christmas present. My girlfriend's got it under lock and key at the moment, so I need to sneak around the house and try and get hold of it. So see you again soon, guys. Stay tuned. Good to get a video back out in a while. So here we go. See you again soon. Bye bye.